What's up everybody? Welcome back to Johnny's Garage, where today we're going to be working on this Subaru WRX turbo, nice little fun car. We're going to be transforming this vehicle from this to this all within a few days, a few minutes for you guys. And that's what we're going to be sharing with you guys today. The four main parts of painting your car to that factory or show finish level. We do have a brand new hood, or kind of a used hood. It ain't brand new, but a used hood, but brand new to this car. This car got all dinged up with hail damage. The roof, we're going to be body working, so it's where we're going to be spending most of our time. A lot of little things, not a lot of big ones, but we do have a pretty big one right here. We got a pretty big one right here. This one also a little bit could be pulled out. We have a center one right here that we can pull out. And then we have a lot of little ones that just need to get kind of filled and smooth, which let's get into it now. So the first thing is to detrim. We don't really have a lot of trim. You know, these lights and things like that, they're nice to take off, but you don't need to take them off. But if you don't take them off, you have to get inside this groove. What I personally like to do is not only with a scuff pad, but I like to get my piece of 600 grit and just squeeze it in there and just get up in there. And then that to me is like the trick, just to get scratches not only on the tip of that lip but inside that lip, and then I'll go over with the scuff pad anyways. And the same that I'll do with all these edges here. Let's grab the eraser wheel and we're gonna start pulling off all these tape here that they put on here, this tape line here. Let's pull all that stuff off, and then we'll start grinding away so we can do our body work. Let's go. Alright, we got some of the bigger dents grinded out. Now you gotta push on it. So literally 1.5 seconds. Not too long. So now all our studs are welded on, right? Not overly welded, but not too underwelded. And in this case, I don't mind to underweld a little bit. If I pull it and it just pulls a little dent and pops off, that's perfectly fine with me right now. On this one here, I did try to hold it maybe a half a second longer, just because again, it's like a reinforced. What you do is, you see it has this little twisty roller thing, right? As you twist it, it kind of comes up and then it goes down in. When it's down in, it's kind of grabbing onto the stud and kind of locking it in. So what you want to do is you want to roll it so it's out, right? Slide your thing in, and then you want to roll it back. You want to roll it back and then pull up on it, and that kind of locks it in. And then once you pull, you want to keep pulling. You want to keep pulling pressure up. So sometimes on dents like this, you don't even have to use a slide hammer. Just by pulling up on it. All right, there we go. That's more than enough. So what I'm doing is with this hand, I'm pulling up on it to keep that pressure so it doesn't unlock. And then with this hand, I slide up and I give it a couple taps to help pull it up. Then you push it back down, right? And sometimes I give it a little twist just so this can unlock. And then from there, you can pull it out. And we have this one up here. Roll it back. Pull it up. Pull it forward. And ba bim ba boom. And man, that looks good. I could already see where that dent kind of got pulled out. So yeah, these are very little dents. Some people probably wouldn't even get into pulling them. But see, these are some of the bigger ones, so I'm just gonna pull some of them up. All right, pull forward, roll it out, pull back, forward, and they should pop off. All right, oh, I got nervous for a second. So if they weld it for a second, you can pretty much grab them with these pliers and pull them right off, and you're good. All right, it leaves a dentation from the weld, but it doesn't break through a hole through the metal. If you happen to hold it on there for too long, for 2-3 seconds, then you're most likely gonna weld this whole entire thing. You're gonna weld it on there, and then when you try to do this, you're gonna pull it out, and there's gonna be a hole, you know, like that you can see through. All right, guys. So we got it all cleaned up. We popped the studs off. We grinded that down. Now we're gonna move over to sanding everything down and get it ready to apply our Bondo. Now the instructions of the Bondo is to 80 grit everything down and then to Bondo over it. Bondo could go over 80 grit. In this case, I'm gonna jump over to 120 grit. I'm gonna sand everything down in 120 grit because this is not taking a thick layer of Bondo. We're just pretty much kind of skim coating it. There's only 2 or 3 dents that, you know, are, you know, not even that big but decent, and everything else is very small little nicks and dings. So I don't want to 80 grit everything and be too aggressive, and then we skim coat it, and then when we block it we have a little shrinkage, and then all of a sudden we can start seeing scratches underneath. So for those scratches and the shrinkage, I'm gonna do it in 120, just not so aggressive like a fresh piece of 80 grit. I'm gonna knock it all down smooth, keep the DA flat, and then when we blow it off, it'll show me my shiny spots, and then I'll go by hand with 120, and then I'll hit inside those dents, and I'll kind of do that by hand a little bit. So yeah, let's sand this baby down. Alright guys, so we got this thing already fully sanded down. Now I like to keep the DA flat and kind of let the low spots kind of stay shiny, and then I go back in and I hit them by hand. A lot of times, even if you kind of edge it, a lot of times it'll still have a little shiny spot, but I try to keep it a little bit flat so that way I can kind of see it really good. And then now when I wipe my Bondo across, I can see, you know, I don't have a lot of dents here, but I have more here, so I could focus more on getting a smooth layer here, and you know, just kind of helps me to see where the dents are and stuff. But yeah, everything's pretty much sanded down smooth. Everything's looking good. I went ahead and found all the little dings. All of this here is done too. So yeah, so now we're pretty much gonna mix up some Bondo, and we're just gonna kind of skim coat. We're gonna kind of skim coat everything. Make sure you fill up with elbow grease, as you're gonna need quite a bit of it here. Let me mix up some Bondo, and just gonna pick a spot and then just go as far as I can, and then mix up some more and apply and mix up some more, and just keep on just kind of stacking it, boom 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 boom, and then we'll block it all down smooth. All right, so when mixing up your Bondo, you want to make sure that you squeeze this thing around and get it all mixed up. Sometimes the liquid kind of separates, but with Bondo you pretty much want to put your blob, your thing, and you want to do one stripe across. That's pretty much it. If it's hot outside, then that's good enough. If it's cold outside, then you can put a little bit more. It's pretty hot out here, but I am gonna apply this pretty fast. Yep. So that's pretty much the rule of thumb for that. Now we're gonna mix it all up and then start applying it. so we got the first skim coat on it, and again, we're not trying to build this thing up to a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch, right? We're not trying to fill, I'm not trying to make a molding out of this roof. I'm really just trying to fill in all those little things. What we could do is grab a piece of cardboard and then jump on that side and then start applying that side, so that way as this dries, then we can come in and finish doing this side like that, or jump on the trunk, you know what I mean? So you could jump back and forth. Plus I got all the little things. I went with like a blade and just applied on those little things. So as it goes drying, I'm working on this hood. I already pulled off the hood it came with, which is that one. That's the dinged up one. And then I put this new used hood on, and it looks really good. It looks really good. Just has a couple little chips. I think it has like one little ding up front and has a couple chips. So we're gonna paint this, and then we're gonna blend the fenders. Move over to body work. Well, we're still in body work, but actually getting to do the body work. So I'm gonna start off with this deck lid here, just to start me off easy and I guess warm up before doing this roof here. So we got it knocked down. Again, not trying to like get it blocked with the DA, but just trying to knock it down smooth. Just kind of help a little bit on that elbow grease. But yeah, now we move over to the actual block. So I'm gonna grab my favorite block, this Dura block. I don't know how long it is. I'm gonna say 12, about a 12-inch block. You could do a little bit, you could do a little longer, but there's really no need. But yeah, so I'm gonna just grab a spot and just start working it back and forth. You see, we got the thing right here. You see, all it's smooth, but here we have some texture. So right now, spot. So we're gonna come on, nice and smooth. So I'm gonna start putting here, it's perfect. Now, so we're gonna go to the side. We are back on the elbow greaser. I had to fill in my elbow grease twice. We got this thing all blocked down the first round. Now I went in and I kind of marked some of the low spots, and then I just kind of wiped just a little bit, another little fine layer on those low spots just to kind of give them a little roundness. And then I went ahead and I knocked this down in 80 grit, and then I worked it down in 120. Then we also got some low spots here. So I kind of put like a tape wherever I have a low spot, or at least in that area. So the trunk has been blocked down, the roof has been blocked down. I blew it all off. I wiped down some of the low spots. Now I'm gonna let all that dry up real good before we block it again down in 80 grit. Then I'm gonna move over to this other block that I have that I don't use much, but I tend to use it on the roofs. It has a metal under, like a metal, I don't know what it's called, platform back down here. The good thing is that I can grab it with both hands, and I can work this groove right here. So after all that dries, I'm gonna go back over everything in 80 grit, get it all nice and straight, and then we'll start fining it up. And then we'll be done with part 1, which is the body work, and then we'll be entering phase 2, part 2. Let's jump into part 2. All right, what's up everybody? So we're pretty much done with the body work on the roof. Now the roof enters part 2, which is prepping. So now this would leave the body man side and it will move over to the prepper, and now the prepper would be the one to 320 all the edges, right? If we need to use a little bit of fine putty for little pinholes, right? Little pinholes. That's when we will do that. Now knock that down, scuff on our edges, tape it up for primer. So we're pretty much done with the part 1 of bodywork on the roof. Part 2, the prepping stage. Whenever we move on to the prepping stage, normally the car comes over with finished bodywork. Then the first thing that you do is you 220 or 320 all your edges, just to make sure that you got all those body mount, you know, those body grit scratches, those 80 and 120, and make sure you get all those. So I pretty much bring it out 320 a little bit on all the edges, right? And I check for pinholes, like I showed you with that fine putty. Check for pinholes, sand it all down with 220 or 320, and then blow everything off, and then we taped it up. We bagged it pretty much just for primer. So I just taped it right on the edge, right on this edge, right? I back taped this trunk lid here. So it's just for primer. We're about to prime it now, and then tomorrow I'll rip off all the bag, all the tape, and then we'll pull it out, let it get some sun, and just kind of let it dry as best as possible. The painter gets all the credit, but if it ain't for a good body work or it ain't a good prep job, you're not gonna get a good paint job. So these are like this is the foundation. So we need to make sure that we get everything as best as possible. All right, let's mix up some primer and let's start priming this thing, man. I can't wait. And again, one medium coat, not a light coat, but not a, like extremely heavy. So one, you know, medium wet, medium heavy coat. So far so good, but it's pretty much already kind of tacking off. So by the time you get over to the other side, within 10 minutes, 15 minutes, as long as you can kind of tack off with your finger like this, you can pretty much just go straight over it with your next coat. So we got one coat down. I'm gonna spray another very, very heavy coat. Let's jump into tomorrow when we're gonna start, I guess, pull this thing out, and then we're gonna start sanding down on it. Let's go. I got to pull it out on Sunday all day, let it get sun. I actually left it overnight, so now Monday morning we pulled it back in, all that, and then I re-taped some tape on my edges, just where I don't want the block to come off and, you know, scuff that gasket, or, you know, hit the glass. And once we get sanding, I'm pretty much using the longest block I have. It is like a metal bottom, and it does have some flex to it, but I'm putting one hand back here and I'm putting one hand over here, so that way I can get the shape of the body. And then I'm just lightly, I'm not putting too much pressure, because if you put too much pressure, it kind of warps the panel, so it'll sand it down smooth, but then it'll be kind of warpy and wavy. We'll see, you're gonna see here in a second. And I got most of it all blocked down. I did have a few low spots, a lot of them blocked out. This one here is one of them. This is a low spot, so this is where everything around it got sanded, but this here still needs to be sanded more, so it means that this spot is kind of low. So there's a little ding right there. The same with right here. If you have any of these little spots, a lot of these will block out if you have good material on there. If you only had 2 layers, then you're probably going to eat through it and then have to reprime it. So by throwing 3 coats on it, I started blocking it with 220 grit. With 220, I'm going to get it all knocked down straight, right? So I don't have to put so much pressure. I keep the block light, I cut back and forth, and I'll get a cut that's a nice smooth cut. So then let's jump up there so that way you guys can check it out. Let's go. We can see these little low spots, right? can see those low spots, and this is pretty much blocked down smooth. So we can see another little low spot right here, right? Which I think those will be able to get out. When I rub my hand, I don't really feel them. They don't feel like a dent. Like these here kind of do feel a little bit more like a dent. So we're gonna keep knocking this down until we kind of break through the primer, and then we'll have to kind of wipe it down a little bit and reprime it. As we get over here is kind of where I'm starting to knock it down, and now you can kind of see, you can see where some of the body work was done. You see here's a low spot, here's kind of high. So this has been knocked down, this hasn't been touched yet, this hasn't been touched. So here we have some body work, and this is just knocking it down the top surface. This is not like really getting into it just yet. So as we keep blocking it, we're gonna get this all nice and smooth. Keep this thing nice and flat, and again, don't push too hard on it. So what I'm doing is I'm pretty much just going back and forth like this. Right, like that. And then I'm switching, and then I'm going this way, like an X. So I already blew everything off, and then I went over it and I put a piece of tape where all my spots that I need to fill in. I'm gonna wipe. I have it upside down to try to like get it to pull out. But this glaze putty is pretty much that's pretty much all you need. You don't need to get as aggressive like Bondo or Duraglass or nothing like that. All right, guys. So we are nowhere near done, but we're done blocking all our Bondo that we put, our little low spots, right, our low spots. So we finished going over our fine glaze, our glaze putty in 220 grit, and then I went over everything again on block with 320 grit, and then now I finished blowing everything off really good, and I started filling the pinholes with that flying glaze putty. So we are trying to get this thing finished off. Right now I'm working on my edges on all these primer lines that we taped right on the edge. Now I'm gonna kind of knock those down. We got pretty much everything ready, as in like the primer and the prepping. I blocked it with 220, and then I blocked it over with 320, and then I grabbed, then that's pretty much all blocked out. Then I got a piece of 400 grit on the DA, and I just kept the DA nice and flat, and I just nice long strokes, boom boom boom, just walked it, right? I just go up about ½ inch to an inch, boom boom boom, the whole time, just back and forth. And then 600 grit the rest of the, which there's still a few spots here that I have to hit. You see there, little shiny spot there, and up here. So I gotta touch up those spots, but since this primer's pretty thick, I'm knocking down with 320. Once I finish with the primer, then we're gonna start sanding and scuffing up all the inside of these rails, right? Just scuffing up everything, sanding down in here, scuffing up this edge, sanding inside of here, right, and back here. Alright guys, so we are done prepping this back side of the car. I got all my edges with 600 grit. I went back over with a scuff pad. I've already checked for pinholes. It's already fine down in 400. I still have to do this front clip here. Not the bumper, but at least the fenders and hood. down my edges where I do not want to hit. So yeah, now we're gonna blow it off real quick. Not like super intense, but just blow it off, and then go over it with 600 by hand, and then the scuff pad, and then we're done. Then blow everything off really good and start taping up for paint. So let's get this thing done. So I'm gonna start taping this baby up. All right, so we got my paper here. We'll rip out a piece. Rip this here, take that down. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna back tape this back piece here. You don't have to go super far in. Or you don't want to just kind of trace outside of it. You kind of want to tuck it in a little bit. And then you just slide it in. So just like this, you just slide it on in. And if you need to go a little extra far, you could. And then once you're in, then you pretty much just kind of pull it down and pull it up. And you see how right there, it's kind of lifting up. Just kind of lifting it and just kind of pulling. Oh yeah, it's working real good. So I went ahead and I taped up the gasket around the windshield. I also did the sides too. They're a little bit deep down, but it's not so deep down enough to be able to get some clear in there. But as you can see, you have a nice gap all the way down, and then the same within here, you got a nice gap to just go ahead and throw some clear in there. That you're done. Now you can throw your paint and it will just kind of fade in there, and it's not going to give you a hard line, and it's not going to get a lot of overspray in there. So we'll do it again on this one here. So we do it here on the top. If your gasket is super sticky, then you don't really have to put another one on the, like this one here is pretty good. It's pretty sticky. So you don't have to put one on the metal. Sometimes if there's a spot that is kind of lifted a little bit, I will put one there. And then again, throw one for the other side. Boom, close it, bam, and then adjust. And then pull down, adjust, adjust, tape it down. Voila. So now we're just gonna walk this down. It's okay, you can go back over it with another piece of tape. And then once everything looks good, you can pretty much close it. I already got this side done, that quarter panel taped up, the top gasket's done. And then I did this door and that little bottom fender, and then this bumper, this light. If you're only doing this panel, you could back tape around the whole panel and just seal off, and then you don't have to do this, right? You just back tape everything. If you are gonna do fenders, then this is the way to do it. You throw your piece of paper on the inside of this hood, and then a piece of paper on the inside of this fender. I did back tape this bottom side here. So now we're gonna just back tape this here to here, and then all this here will be pretty much sealed. And then we'll throw some back tape down the front of this hood. I'm gonna try to finish this off, bag the car, and I'm trying to prime this fender and trying to prime this pillar. and then this one spot here, and then like a spot over there. So that's my goal for today. If I could finish bagging this up, taping it up, bagging it, priming it, then tomorrow let's just come in, knock down that primer, and then paint this baby. So then we'll move over to part 3, which is Johnny the Painter. Welcome, welcome. We are back. We are entering part 3 of the paint process, which is the painting. So we've done with all our body work. We're done with all our prep work. As you can see, nice fine tape job. I really do like taping. Now we enter the paint department. 320 blocked it, and then I 400 DA over it. So I did that to all the little primer spots, and then I got some 600 grit, and I just kind of went over the panel just to get any overspray off. And then I've already blown off the car like 2 or 3 times. All of this here got blocked down. Let's get cracking. Let's get this thing done. Once we enter the paint department, it's pretty much blow everything off really good, just in case the prepper didn't do that. Blow everything off with a rag, with the air. Try to get inside all your cracks, all inside here, because that's where your dust is going to come out. So just try to blow everything off really good. You blow out your garage, right, or your booth or whatever you're using. Blow it out a couple times, blow off the car, then get it in, and then bag it. We're going to get some wax and grease remover, and we're going to just start wiping everything down. It's always good to do your blend panels first and then do your primer, just because you don't want to get that gray primer and then add some streaks in here, and then you clear it and then you can see them. So it's always good to start off with your blend panel first. Everything's looking good, feeling good, which excites me. Whenever a job is nicely well done, I just feel good, you know, I feel good about it. But when I want something to be just like extra clean or like really pull out that dust, I'll go over with this one. So let's mix up some base coat, and then we'll blow this off one final time, and then let's spray some base coat. Let's go. All right, we're pretty much good to go. I already blew everything off. I'm gonna start off over here. So we got our first coat on there. You've seen the process, nothing fancy, just get it on. Yes, you do have to, there is rules to it. It's not just hose it on there. You want to stay about like 6 to 8 inches, right, the tip of your gun to the panel. So 6 to 8 inches around there, and then you want to go down just very slightly. I'd say maybe about an inch, inch and a half every round. So you go down this way, and then you go down about an inch and a half. Then you spray down this way, you go down about an inch, and you just kind of keep on going down. That's the goal. Now it is still see-through. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is still see-through. I can see the primer, which is okay. This is just our first coat. We're not trying to get crazy into our first coat. You never want to go super heavy on base coat. All right, we are done spraying the base coat. We got 2.5 coats. The reason for the half coat is that I do my first coat nice and tight, and then I do my second coat, I go a little heavier, and then after I do my second coats, then I kind of pull back a little bit, and then I kind of mist like more of a fan, and it's really just to lay down that metallic. It does give you a little coverage, but it's really meant more for that metallic to kind of flow out, so that way you don't have like tiger stripes or blotchiness or anything like that. On a dark blue, you don't really have to worry too much about blotchy and tiger stripes, but it could happen, especially on the roof. If you're too close and you're just kind of like stripe, you could get it. So it's good to throw your coats, and then I pull back, right? I pull back, and then I pretty much like, right? Then I pull back a little bit, and then I just kind of mist, nice layer all down, just get a nice even metallic mist on there. And then I already got my clear mixed up, so let's spray some clear. I'm gonna just start off with the roof, and then we'll work our way down. Alright guys, so both coats are done. I ended up doing one coat over everything, and then I went back with a second coat, but I went really heavy on it. Heavy, not to run it, but pretty heavy. I went nice and slow, kept it heavy. Everything looks really good. Really good. Bodywork looks very, very nice. So the only downside that I see is just little dirt nibs. Now again, it's nowhere near as bad as I've seen some videos. You normally can't really see them in videos. Like, let me see if I can show you one. Right there, you see it? Right there. There's a dirt nib right there. So normally in videos they're very hard to tell. So yeah, this came out very nice and slick and smooth. This thing looks sweet, man, and that bodywork looks nice. I cannot see. I don't see, man, that is nice. I don't see no, like where the dents were. I don't see no like ring, no marking, no nothing. Like everything is very smooth. The roof also, I'm very happy with the roof. All the bodywork looks very, very nice. It's finally done. It's finally done. I almost can't believe it. This is the most exciting part for me of the job, is really just the finishing. I guess since a kid, since I've started, the most satisfaction of this job is just seeing that customer's face. Honestly, like that really is what gets me every time. The money's okay. The job is fun, right? Because you're doing different steps, and as long as you stay on those steps, then you should get a very good result. And if something is not 100% perfect, you could always sand it down and redo it with that confidence that every single layer that we did was done correctly. So you're not worried about flaking issues or anything like that. You throw a bad paint job down, and then you try to fix it on top, your top paint job is just as good as the bottom one. It might look nicer, it might be shinier, it might be glossier, but you can still have lifting issues, flaking issues, right? Your corners lifting up. So that's why we got to make sure that we stay as close to those 34 steps as possible. You know, finish off your primer in 220, finish off your, you know, your body work in 180 to 220, finish your primer in at least 400. Like, those are just my simple rules and my steps, and they're not just mine. Like, this is by the book. By the book is actually 320 grit to finish your primer according to what base coat you use. But I personally, like I said, I like to go 400 to 600 is kind of what I finish at. But yeah, man, here you guys have it. So we did the first part, which was the body work, which took forever on this thing. And then we did the second part, which was the prep work, which we sanded it all down, we taped it all up. I showed you some tips and pointers on that stuff. And then the third part, I don't even remember what. The third part was the painter. Johnny the painter came out, he laid it down. Johnny the painter gets all the credit.
man, oh man, Johnny the Painter is the best guy ever, right? Screw the body man, screw the prepper, screw all those other guys. Johnny the Painter is the man. So we give all the credit to Johnny the Painter. He did amazing. Thank you, I'm Johnny the Painter. So yeah, it's a team effort. You know, your foundation, it says it all, man. If your foundation ain't right, you know, it's just not gonna look right. So to get a nice result, you gotta make sure you start off good, make sure all your steps are right. So guys, we're done for today. I'm done. I'm tired. I've sweated probably about 1.5 gallons today. Part 4, which is the cut and the buff, the paint correction, the wet sand and polish, whatever you want to call it. But we're gonna do some wet sanding and buffing. I'll catch you guys tomorrow when we pull this thing out, and then we'll jump into wet sanding and polishing, and then we'll start to really see some really high-end gloss. And then the best for last, which is, I do have a course about ceramic coating, but it's not part of the 34-step course that I have. But we are going to do some ceramic coating, so I'll show you a little bit about that too. A very simple process, really nothing crazy. The crazy part is in the paint correction. Really, it's just in the polishing. So hang in there, guys. We're almost done with this baby. We got our 2000 grit sandpaper. I normally like to cut it in half and then fold it like this in 3. Now I turn the fan off because I want it to be quiet. I don't got my headphones on, I don't got the radio on, because we want to make sure that our panel is clean. So it's good to always wet, kind of pre-soak your paper. Just gonna back and forth, and you want to listen. Just keep on wetting it. And if you hear any, that's normally like sand and dust. So just kind of keep flushing it out. And then sometimes I'll hold it down, and then I'll squeegee it, just if there's any sand or anything, try to get it off. Now, you've seen us kind of do the full process. So now we start kind of looking at it. We have a shiny spot here, so that's a spot that hasn't got hit. So we'll have to touch that up. And then you see these little shiny spots there. Those were most likely little chips that this thing had. And even though they got filled in with a little bit of fine glaze, everything kind of shrinks. So those little spots there. Now we should have enough clear, but I'm not gonna jeopardize the clear over those little chips. We're gonna wet sand it a little bit more, and then we're gonna blend it out, and you most likely would very rarely ever see that. We could wet sand it down further and get it smooth, and therefore it's like glass and you don't see that. But now again, you're minimizing that clear. So instead of having a nice thick layer of protection, you're now on a very fine line. And this car is not garage kept. It's not a daily, but it's almost a daily. It's kept outside. This hood is gonna get a lot of Florida sun. I wouldn't want to jeopardize it clear over something like that. Something that you're not gonna see from up here. Something that you're gonna have to really kind of get up close to see it. So these little shiny spots we need to hit, right? So now here, let me see if I can show you guys. Right there, that's a little dirt nib. So you see how like the center is sanded, but then it has like a ring around the shiny? That's a dirt nib. So that we're gonna hit a little bit more. And then here we have a little bit of like texture, orange peel. So again, we need to wet sand this here just a little bit more. The same with here. So yeah. So this, and then this part here looks pretty good. And then here also we find another dirt nib here. We see one that's about to get hit right here. So this is really what we're wet sanding for, is for those dirt nibs. And then also just to get that smooth gloss look, trying to wet sand some of this texture out and get it to be nice and slick and glass. I got everything finished off in 3000 grit. We have just started polishing. I just did this section here, and I did a small section just to kind of see, you know, what it's gonna look like. You grab a flashlight and you kind of angle it, and it kind of helps you to see any kind of, you know, like sand scratches or things like that. So this area right here, I can see it where it's a little bit hazy. versus like this area over here is like very glossy and glassy. So very minor little swirl marks. I can see on the edge that it kind of needs to hit a little bit more on this edge, a little bit on this edge, and then this center right here. Do a couple more passes. Ooh, boy, looking good. All right, now we'll grab a clean microfiber. And without trying to get all up inside all that dust there. Keep it nice and tight. I'll grab my light and then I'll just kind of angle it to be able to hit me in the eyes, and I could go over it and then I can see my corners. Like this corner right here needs to be touched up just a little bit. But this whole area here looks really good. This area here looks really good. So this here needs to be hit a little bit more. Yeah, it looks like this edge right here needs to be hit a little bit more. Really, really nice. Yeah, it's looking really good. And again, this is just the first step. It is a medium step, so it's semi-aggressive, but we're gonna go back over it with a second step, which is like that fine polish, and it just really helps kind of take out any swirl marks and just kind of glass it out. Everybody, we are back on the Subaru. As you can tell, it's looking very nice. I pretty much just finished the second step. With the second step, I'll show you. I'm gonna do a little test spot here. We're pretty much, this stuff here kind of, it spreads pretty good, so I normally don't really use a whole lot, but again, I'll put like 3 stripes to be able to get this area here. It's kind of like applying it, so I just kind of go on low and I apply it in my area, and then once I have my area pretty much smoothed out, then I'll turn up the gas, and then I'll just start moving a little bit slower, move a little bit of pressure. And kind of the same with the spray gun, kind of the same with the polishing. I'm pretty much going down, you know, a ½ inch to an inch every pass. Right now I'm moving kind of quick. This one here is a little bit quicker than the actual like first step, where you really want to go slow and kind of like melt it in. And just kind of pay attention to how it's looking, and then that way by the time you do this hood, you already know that you got to do 3 passes, nice and medium, go slower. So by the time you're done with this hood and you're moving on to the next panel, you got the hang of it, so then you can start moving a little bit faster. That second pass, that swirl mover, again, to the eye right here, you don't really see it, but once you start to get closer, you put it under a light, you'll start to see the difference of what it does. In the full course, I do show exactly each level of polishing on what it does and how it looks like and all that. And the finer you get into the finer steps you get into, the more minimum you actually see results. It gets to a point where it's like microscopic, kind of like you're not gonna see it from here. You'd have to see it under a certain light, under a certain angle, under a certain so it's just getting like super picky. Again, this right here is pretty much an overkill. This is an outdoor car. It is a nice car, and I try to keep it as clean. I try to get it as clean as possible for him, so that way he can be happy and enjoy it, and put some love in his car. But at the end of the day, this car does sit outside in the environment. It doesn't get used a lot, so this will be dirty again and scratched up within a few months. Man, I really put in quite some hours yesterday trying to get this thing done. This thing is coming along. This thing is looking very nice, as you can see. I forgot where I left off, but I ended up pulling it outside. I pressure washed it, I Dawn soap like the glass and everywhere where I saw, you know, all the bumpers and stuff. And I've already started ceramic coating. So I've ceramic coated this half of the hood, and then this whole side and this corner of the bumper I just ceramic coated. Now I'm about to move on to the hood. All right, so you pretty much want to work again like a 2x2 area. If you work fast and once you get the hang of it, you could do a larger amount. It is hot, it's hot as hell. So I normally just kind of pour this in a circle. I like to and then since I went that way, then I'll go front and back. And again, this stuff is such a fine layer to put on it that it's not like you're really trying to like clear coat it. You're just trying to get a little fine layer. So as long as you can see that this thing is in a timely fashion, and then we're just gonna wipe all this in. Yeah, actually it was taking a little too long. So we want to wipe all of this in. Alright, and then we'll fold this and we'll get our wipe off. Open that up, and then this one here will give a nice like hand polish. Kind of wiping it off, but kind of like almost like lightly polishing it. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the process. Now let's just let it sit there for 24 hours. According to your product, some are more, some are less. I think this product here says 12 hours, but I let it sit for at least 24 hours before it rolls out. And then yeah, as soon as we roll it out, you can water it, and it's already hydro beading like crazy and all that fancy stuff. We kind of went over the top and just finished polishing down the doors. We re-ceramic coated the doors, all the bumpers, the whole car. So this thing is kind of freshened up again. It's not, the job was to paint those panels. It wasn't to ceramic coat and polish out the car, but just that little bit of extra, so that way we could bring this thing back to life, man, because it really is a nice car. I love that blue metallic. It's really nice. It looks nice and smooth, you know, here like in the shade. But then when it gets in the sun and the light, it has a nice heavy metallic to it. So there you guys have it. That's, you guys seen the whole process. I hope you guys learned some stuff. I hope you took some notes. Thank you guys for watching the video. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.